Another wild weekend of SEC baseball is in the books. Ladies and gents, welcome to the Windup. Our show officially has a nickname. I'm very pleased to be joined by my good friend Harrison Fant, as always. And let you all know, by the way, the Windup will be coming to you all, recapping each weekend on Mondays, previewing the weekend on Thursdays. Harrison, thank you, by the way, for providing the nickname. Absolutely love it. But again, excited to let the audience know we'll be coming to you twice a week. Looking back on everything that was in the weekend, looking ahead to everything upcoming. Harrison, how you doing, my friend? Appreciate you taking the time.
Chris, just love being here, talking baseball with you, hanging out, and it's so exciting, watch baseball continue to roll on. We're in week 2, and it's just, there's so many things that are fun to watch. It's so exciting, and just, you can't not love it. It's college baseball.
And to let the folks know, by the way, some exciting news before we get rolling. There is a really, really good chance that by Thursday, when we come to you guys again and look ahead at the weekend that's upcoming, we could have a new presenting sponsor to this show specifically. Wink, wink. But for now, our good friends, MyBookie, want to tell you about them. Of course, March Madness just around the corner, guys. You want to make sure you're in on the action. Head over to mybookie.ag. Use the promo code SECU. You're going to get a 50% deposit match up to $1,000. So again, tons of SEC teams going to be involved in March Madness. You want to make sure you're in on the action. Also, Major League Baseball's around the corner, guys. You can bet literally anything, everything. They got totals, they got spreads, they got prop plays, they've got parlays, whatever it is you want to throw your money around on. SECU is your promo code at MyBookie.ag, 50% deposit match up to $1,000. MyBookie.ag, promo code SECU. We appreciate those guys. Let's run through the entire SEC. We'll start with Alabama. We'll end with Vandy, A through Z. Head to Tuscaloosa. Couldn't ask for a better start, Harrison. Couldn't ask for a better start for Rob Vaughn. Undefeated so far. You look at the schedule, it's been soft. Let's call it for what it is. But in the week that was, beat Middle Tennessee State 6-1. Took care of Alabama State as well, 12-0. Swept Valpo in 3 straight mercy rule victories, 14-2, 13-3, 11-1, or 11-1, excuse me. 4 straight mercy rule wins. They're hitting the hell out of the baseball. They're pitching really well, doing everything you could ask right now, Harrison. And again, this was a team for me, admittedly, in the preseason. I had my doubts. I was skeptical. I still am there with that because I don't think they've played anyone, but certainly it's so far so good for Rob Vaughn. The transfer, TJ McCants, has been fantastic. Gage Miller hitting home runs left and right, homered in all 3 games. Your thoughts on what Bama did this weekend, and also what were your preseason thoughts on Bama, and have those changed at all, either for the positive or the negative, based off what you've seen at this point?
Yeah, Chris, this Alabama team's been pretty exciting to watch. It's been kind of quiet under the radar, but they're taking care of business, but they're doing so in a loud way. Like you said, 4 straight mercy rolls. I think Rob Vaughn's got the guys rolling. He's in the right direction. It's kind of, we were wondering to see how things would go and start the season compared to how, the situation last year with the scandal and the betting situation. But like you said, Gage Miller and TJ McCants, 2 of my favorite guys in the team to watch. Just electric. Miller has power to all fields. He homered in all 3 games. TJ McCants, 2 homers on Sunday. They both tied for the SEC lead with 5 homers. And it's just, they're a loud team. It's going to be interesting to see how it translates to SEC play.
And I mentioned this, Harrison, too. I don't know if it's because they're, quote-unquote, winning boring because they're blowing everyone out, or they're doing what they're supposed to do. They haven't been upset. But this has been a team that I feel like, at least for me personally especially, has been flying under the radar. Like, we're posting scores and we're keeping up with these teams. Like, for whatever reason, it's like I'm not seeing Bama on the timeline as much, and I don't know why. But, I mean, I guess that's what happens when you win in blowout fashion and you take care of your business. So I'm curious to see what Rob Vaughn's club is going to be as the competition improves, certainly. Shout out to you yet again, Harrison, because, again, you come up with the show name, The Windup, which fantastic show name, by the way. You've also come up with our weekly award that we're going to hand out for a team that needs some extra attaboys, that really put on a show over the weekend. That team this week is the Arkansas Razorbacks, the Tip of the Cap award of the week. Yes, pat yourself on the back. Tip of the freaking cap to the Arkansas Razorbacks, the college baseball series at Globe Life. I think Arkansas showed, we already knew, one of the top teams in the country. They put on a freaking show, and specifically Hagen Smith put on a show, right? And I think Arkansas, I'll say it right now, the best pitching staff in college baseball, but Hagen Smith 17 strikeouts in that game 1 win against Oregon State. Hogs win that game 5-4. They do drop the second game 2-1 in 14 innings against Oklahoma State on the squeeze play. Was a phenomenal college baseball game. They close it out 4-3 win over Michigan. So all in all, a successful weekend. Harrison, Hogs go 2-1 at Globe Life. Just the one blemish against Oklahoma State. But the pitching was the headliner yet again.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you love pitching and you like college baseball, obviously, you need to watch the Arkansas Razorbacks. Hagen Smith, the trio of Hagen Smith, Brady Tigert, and Mason Molina, the transfer from Texas Tech, a Friday night guy there, who's now in the Sunday role at Arkansas, which just shows you how much firepower they really have and the depth of which they had. They combined, they went 17 innings, 6 hits, 0 runs, 33 strikeouts, and only 4 walks between the 3 of them. You're not going to score many runs against that, and you're going to win a lot of ball games if you're Arkansas getting that every week. And it's just Hagen Smith tied the program record for most strikeouts in the game with 17. He was electric, and just those guys are so much fun to watch.
On 78 pitches, which is nuts. Yeah. 59 strikes on 78 pitches, just 1 3-ball counts. I mean, it's Arkansas. You know, the big question, I think, what showed up in game 2, do they have enough sticks? Do they have enough hitting, right? Maybe when Peyton Stovall comes back from injury, that's going to improve this lineup. But, you know, having the foundation of the pitching staff they have, great place to start. And just to show the beauty of college baseball, Hagen Smith goes out on opening day. He gets roughed up, looks terrible against James Madison. Then he goes up against Oregon State, a top 10 team, a top 5 team in my mind. I think a team that very well could end up in Omaha. 17 strikeouts. So make it make sense, right? That's the beauty of college baseball.
Yeah.
Yeah. Going to Auburn, another tournament, more tournament play. And I know, Harrison, you said off air, you love the tournaments. I love the tournaments. It's great for these early season tests, if you will, to get a look at these teams, right? And it's only going to benefit in Arkansas and Auburn and Kentucky, et cetera, down the road when they're going to go into SEC play and sort of know what they have. I think Auburn, a team, turned some heads over this weekend. We've seen them already pop up today in a couple top 25s, beat 18th ranked Iowa 7-5 in that tournament, beat Wichita State by double-digit runs, beat them by run rule, 19-8 in 7 innings. And then in the finale, lost to Virginia for the championship, but a great back-and-forth game. Virginia is certainly one of the best teams in the ACC. The long ball was prevalent for Auburn. I think a great sign, too, for the Tigers. Joseph Gonzalez pitching well for them on Saturday. That's going to be a huge piece of this ball club. But to me, Harrison, what I look at and I see and I say is this is just Butch Thompson's club doing what they always do, right? Coming into a season underrated, under the radar, and wouldn't you know it, they remind everyone that they're going to be a force to be reckoned with in the SEC this year.
Yeah, and absolutely. Like we said last year, they were a regional host, and this just seems like Butch has Auburn baseball where he wants it and projecting the right direction. They got a lot of great pieces around him, a lot of great talent on that team. You got Bobby Pierce, you got Cooper Murray, who had a grand slam against Wichita State in that 19-8 mercy rule in 7 innings. I mean, he had 6 RBIs. You got Derek Fabian, younger brother Judd Fabian from Florida, 2nd-round pick of the Orioles in 2022. You got just so much talent on that team. Bobby Pierce, another fun guy to watch, who had, I think, a pair of homers this weekend. And, you know, good things are happening in Auburn, Alabama.
And you know what stands out to me too, Harrison, is all the names that you have listed, and Auburn goes into Jacksonville, wins 2 out of 3. All the names you have listed, no Ike Irish. So to do all that without Ike Irish really doing much of anything, it's impressive because he's one of their best players for sure.
Absolutely.
To Gainesville, Harrison, the demise of Florida greatly over-exaggerated after that opening day loss to St. John's. Next 2 games getting rained out. Florida looks like Florida again. 10-0 win and 13-4 win over North Florida in the midweek. Swept Columbia, ho-hum, 15-6 game 1, 7-3 game 2, 12-5 in game 3. Great bounce back effort by Cade Fisher on the bump in game 1, 5 innings pitched, 2 earned. Again, the offense was electric. Colby Shelton, I thought, it played really well. And I mean, he showed you, I think, why he was such a valuable pickup. Had a monster home run in that weekend series. Jack Caglione, want to get your thoughts on him. Obviously, I know you that was a guy you talked about a lot in the preseason. You did a piece of content specifically on him. The velocity there, stuff there. Numbers, maybe not so much. But Florida's back on track, right? They're swinging the sticks well. A couple guys bounced back that weren't so good, in that St. John's game or early on, whatever. So Florida's back on track. But your thoughts on Florida, and specifically Jack Caglione, what you saw from him in that 3rd and final game?
Yeah, I mean, no one thought that Florida was going to lose game 1. I guess there's St. John's fans, but having to wait until the midweek to get your first win this season wasn't really, as the Gators kind of, map things out, wasn't on their bingo card for sure. But Kevin O'Sullivan, if there's anyone we have a lot of trust in, it's him. He's been there before. He's a vet. He knows what he's doing, and he has all the tools, and they have all the talent on the team to make another deep run and overcome a lot of adversity. And Jack Caglione, like you said, I did a 2-piece on him. Probably the best college baseball player in the country right now, just the most exciting for sure. I mean, he's what people are comparing to is Shohei Ohtani, the two-way talent sensation that he is. And Caglione looked great amount, honestly. 95, 99 mile per hour fastball. He had some mechanical adjustments he made in the fall, and I'm curious to see how those kind of correlate and translate this spring and as we get into SEC play. But like you said, we got to limit the walks. I think he relies on his fastball a lot, and it's a fantastic fastball. But like Hagen Smith of Arkansas, he has that fastball slider tunneling. I don't think Jack has that as much, and I want to see him use and rely on a more of an off speed to put away guys late in the counter. Be able to use that early and kind of work backwards. I want to see how that kind of how he progresses through that as he gets the season continues on. But he's got all the tools. We know that on both sides of the ball.
And Harrison, as we continue to learn about this Florida team, this sets the scene for, not to tease it too much, but this upcoming weekend rivalry series against the Miami Hurricanes. Again, more on that later in the show. To Athens, Georgia, one of the best surprises thus far. I know the schedule, you look at it, whatever, but brand new head coach Wes Johnson. This team was expected to do nothing, right? Absolutely nothing. They're 7-0. They beat the hell out of Georgia State in the midweek, 15-0. They swept Northern Kentucky. Needed some dramatics in games 2 and 3, right? We had a walk-off hit by pitch in this series, which got to love college baseball. You expect the unexpected. But 87 runs in 7 games. Charlie Condon is destroying the baseball right now. I believe Georgia, unless it changed middle of the day yesterday, leads the SEC in home runs, which I did not have that on my early season bingo card in college baseball. Your thoughts on Wes Johnson, what he's done so far? Again, we got to wait until the competition improves. I know that non-conference play means nothing, but so far so good. The vibes are high right now in Athens.
Yeah, Chris. And like you said, Wes Johnson, who came up from LSU this season, from the last season where they won a national championship. I think as a Georgia Bulldogs fan, you have nothing but praise for what he's done so far and just have to love the direction that he's pushing this program in. 7-0, they scored 87 runs in 7 games. That's absurd. And, the talent that Georgia has around them in the state of Georgia, they can recruit from that bed of just immense talent from East Cobb baseball and perfect game being there. There's no reason for him not to be successful to put this program on the national map, kind of how they were a couple of years ago when COVID hit. They were one of the best teams in the nation that year.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned, too, the way they're scoring runs. Harrison, I looked up in that game 1, Georgia dropped a 10 spot in the first inning. So, I mean, that offense is – and it's not just Charlie Condon. It's 1 through 9. They're all swinging the stick well, which, again, really good sign for Dogs fans. And, again, not to tease too much, but we got some rivalry series upcoming. We'll learn a lot more about
that. Seems to be an SEC trend so far. Scoring 10 runs, scoring a lot of runs in the first inning. Florida did it. Alabama's doing it. I don't know.
And respect to the guys for staying locked in, because you get up 10-0 after 1. It's easy to kind of screw around in the dugout and be like, well, this game's over. So let's go to the Round Rock Classic. Kentucky, the Kentucky Wildcats, which another team that's been flying under the radar, and I think it's because similar to Georgia, maybe similar to Bama, like when you think of those schools, similar to Auburn, baseball's not the sport that pops up in your head first, but Kentucky, an impressive showing over the weekend. They lost 6-4 to Washington State, but bounced back, beat Texas State 11-5, beat Kansas 8-5. Harrison, the name that jumps out is the Central Connecticut State transfer. I totally forgot he even went to Kentucky. Dominic Neiman, who was absolutely filthy in the Columbia Regional last year. The southpaw was really good for Kentucky over the weekend, 93-94 with the fastball to 95 miles an hour. He looked great. So thoughts on Kentucky? Again, this is another squad, kind of like an Auburn, where very, very underrated. They may finish bottom of the league, but this is a team that could sneak up and beat anybody. They're going to be one of those teams where a lot of teams are going to go into that series expecting to beat Kentucky 2 out of 3, but do not be surprised the Cats sneak up. Nick Mingione's club, they're always a tough out. Your thoughts early on what you've seen for Kentucky and what you saw over the weekend in the Round Rock Classic?
Yeah, and Kentucky's one of those, I don't want to say sleeper teams in the SEC, but kind of middle of the pack. But don't be surprised if you see them make another deep postseason run like they did last year. Nick Mingione got the club going in the right direction. He's got the schedule working for him. They have the second hardest strength of schedule in the country behind Florida, who's got the number one. Like you said, Dominic Neiman from Central Connecticut State. He was electric last year in the Columbia Regional, and he's going to be a huge piece, I think, for their pitching staff. I mean, he was a misplayed ball in the outfield away from a much better stat line outing. I mean, it's another quality start from him, and that's just what you look for from a transfer coming from that level to the SEC, let alone in general. And it's gonna be fun to watch them. I think they're gonna be a sleeper. I mean, you have Mitchell Daly, who transferred from Texas. I mean, he had a great freshman year there, struggled the past 2 years, but yeah, it's a big pickup. I think he had a grand slam, he had 6 RBIs, and the coaches at Kentucky just praise him and just love him. And he's super coachable, and he's a veteran presence, I think, in that clubhouse.
And Kentucky fans, I mean this with all the love in the world. It's a compliment, believe it or not. Kentucky baseball is the poster child for that 13-17 or 14-16 in SEC play team that you don't want to see them in your regional. You just don't. You don't want to see Kentucky in there because they're going to be a tough out. We saw this literally happen last year. Let's go down to the Bayou. LSU beats Northern Illinois 10-2 in the midweek, loses to Stony Brook, which shades of 2012 and what the Seawolves did back then. Thatcher Hurd gets roughed up a little bit, had trouble finding the zone with 4 walks. LSU bouncing back, beating Northern Illinois, and they took it to Stony Brook in the final game. Tommy White, big in that game. Hayden Travinski, Bear Jones, who one of the best names in SEC baseball. The South Carolina transfer, Michael Braswell, had 3 RBI, 18-10 win in that one. So LSU, Harrison, loses their first game of the season. I don't think it's anything to worry about necessarily. If anything, it was cool to see Stony Brook kind of relive what happened back in 2012 at Alex Box. But thoughts on LSU? I mean, I think here's what I'll say. I think if you're holding a ticket of Tommy White winning the Golden Spikes, I think you got a golden ticket in your hand. I think that was a great pick. I expect Tommy White to be right there when it comes to the race for the Golden Spikes. But overall thoughts on LSU? I mean, I think here's the thing. The expectations of them, Harrison, are so high. I look at them and I still wonder. I don't know how they're going to replace Paul Skeens because Thatcher Hurd's got talent. Don't get me wrong. He's got potential. I'm sure he bounces back. But with Paul Skeens, you knew every Friday night you were getting a W. And I don't know if LSU is going to have that this year.
Yeah, and like you said, Paul Skeens, he might have had one of the best collegiate seasons we've ever seen in a pitcher, let alone in a long time. And just replacing that is going to be anything but easy. I mean, but the arms that they have in Thatcher Hurd, Nate Ackerman, who made a name for himself in the postseason College World Series last year, the Alabama transfer, Luke Coleman, and just they have a lot of talent there. They have a lot of talent to replace. I don't want to say replace, but fill roles where they need to. And Thatcher Hurd has a huge opportunity to step up and do so. He went 4 1/3, 6 hits, 3 earned, 8 Ks, but he had 4 walks, and just kind of limiting those walks is going to be key. And spreading out hits when you give them up. But like you said, Tommy White, he's had two of the most electric seasons in college baseball to start your career. I mean, he has a insane career to start at NC State before transferring to LSU. Had another monster season. It's like, can he do it again? I mean, he's proved that he can. But having that, like you said, ticket for Golden Spikes is not a bad ticket to have.
All the kid does is hit dingers, it seems. And also,
he's got a tiger tat on his forearm, too.
He does. And one of the best moments, too, I wanted to point out of the weekend, Stony Brook beats LSU. They do the Get the Gat celebration that LSU did if they won the national title in football a couple years ago. So they create a TikTok, and they do the Get the Gat thing. Tommy White, one of his RBI singles, if you will, rounds first, comes back and does the Get the Gat celebration. So obviously LSU baseball saw that. They took some exception, and again, they punished Stony Brook for it in that final game. Side note, by the way, Harrison, I want to go on record and say this. And I know the numbers maybe early won't reflect it as much, but I think Michael Braswell was a great pickup in the transfer portal, very underrated. I think South Carolina messed up by not doing more to hold on to him. I'm just going to say that. I think the kid's a ball player. I think he's a spark plug. Just saying. I think they should have done more to hold on to him. That's just me, though. Let's talk about the Mississippi schools, Harrison. We'll start with Ole Miss. This is where the conversation gets really fun. What a week for Ole Miss. Lost in the midweek to Arkansas State. Arkansas State by a final score of 4-2. Then they lose game 1 to High Point, and you're thinking, oh my gosh, take it out, blow on it, put it back in. This thing is broken. It's donezo. Ole Miss responds how you would hope they would, beat High Point 12-2 in the second game, and then just go to town 25-2. They led 22-0 after 3 innings. There's a run rule for 7. There should be a run rule for 3, Harrison. If you're down by 20 runs or more after 3 innings, call it because the game is over. Also, they had a really, and this is, God bless college baseball. They had a really interesting week, Harrison, where I don't know if you saw this. Their transfer shortstop, Luke Hill, apparently was in like some fan group chat with other Ole Miss fans or something like that, and was complaining about that his NIL check had not hit yet. It did not help his case when in the Friday game, I think he went 0 for 5 and grounded into a double play to end the game. That just, I mean, dude, it's just college baseball madness. Like that's part of it. Either way, Ole Miss bounces back, closes out the weekend strong, but still a lot of questions of Mike Bianco's club.
Yeah, and whatever he talked to the team and said in that clubhouse after that loss to High Point on Friday seemed to really work. He said 12-2 win and a 25-2 win. I mean, just unreal. I mean, they flipped a switch. The Swayzes were going crazy. A lot of beer probably thrown up in the air. Unfortunately, there's probably a lot of beer being drank too. So they flipped the switch, and hopefully they can continue it as we get into SEC play.
Harrison, I'm really still skeptical of Ole Miss, though.
Rightfully
I don't
so.
know. I don't know, man. It's it's like people say midweeks don't matter or like it doesn't really matter to conference play, but it's not a good sign when you are losing to Arkansas State and losing to High Point on a Friday. Like that's just not.
Ole Miss has no business losing to those teams.
Not a good sign. Speaking of not a good sign, sticking with the Mississippi schools, which it's just so weird where they're at. Mississippi State. Midweek losses to Austin, PA. I went on record, Harrison, I'm sure you saw, and said it's time. It's time with the Chris Lemonis era. He's donezo. He's finished. He's not the guy in Starkville. I thought it was actually an impressive series win. I fully thought Georgia Southern was going to go into Starkville and take 2 or 3. Mississippi State, impressive showing game 1. They did lose game 2, but won that series. I thought that was a quality series win. Georgia Southern is a really, really good team. Nate Dome in game 1, 6 2/3 innings pitched, 4 hits, no runs, 10 strikeouts. He was fantastic. But the pitching in the midweek, I thought, even the offense in game 1, I think they lost that game 2-1. Thoughts on Mississippi State right now? I have no hopes that Mississippi State makes much of anything of this season. I know Chris Lemonis won a national title, but I don't know what to think, man. It's so weird to see Mississippi State struggle this much. They're 4-4 right now, Harrison. They're 4-4 through 2 weekends.
Yeah, Chris, it's a tough spot to be in right now if you're a Mississippi State fan. You win the Natty a couple years ago, and then Ole Miss, like we talked about, won it the next year. It's just Mississippi has proven to us that they are winners and that they are not doing that now. It's just it puts you in a weird, confused position if you're fans of those schools, and you just have that expectation of at least, being the SEC, getting to the postseason, going to Omaha now after winning a national title. And, you're going to need a lot of guys to step up and just stack wins after wins. This little wins just continues to do that until you build momentum and get hot.
Let's go to Como, Harrison. The Missouri Tigers are 4-3. This is a great nugget here. Have not played a home game. We talk about with Carrick Jackson the challenges of that Missouri baseball job and recruiting. How about the fact you cannot play a home game because the weather is so bad, basically until the month of March? Any thoughts on what we're seeing from Mizzou? I posted this over the weekend and I stick by it. And I don't mean to be doom and gloom on Missouri baseball, but they're going to lose a lot of games, man. They're going to lose a lot of games in the SEC. I think this has got a 6-24 or 7-23 or maybe 8-22 conference season written all over it, but not great. I will say UC San Diego, who they took on, they split that twin bill. UC San Diego, a really good team. Any thoughts on Missouri to this point? I just don't think with a team like Missouri, we're going to know much about them until we get into SEC play. Again, just kind of been 50-50, obviously indicated by their record.
Yeah, and like we talked about, someone's got to finish last in the SEC, and just we have Missouri finishing, one position off, maybe last in the SEC, and it's tough to win in the SEC. I think we can't harp on that enough, how good the SEC is and the talent there. And Kerry Jackson, who did get ejected this week, and I like to point out, good for him, good for the team. That's a good morale builder. It's going to be hard to build a program in the SEC and just build that top tier talent. But he's doing it. Came from Memphis. You got to give him time, I think, is the biggest thing, and get his guys, get the right pieces in, and just have the talent to win games in the SEC. It's gonna be tough.
Harrison, let's go to Columbia. Talk the South Carolina Gamecocks. A couple of big wins in the midweek. South Carolina takes 2 of 3 from Belmont. Lost that Saturday game. There was some debate, conversation amongst the faithful there that maybe Dylan SECU was left in a little bit too long on Saturday. Also, Chris Veach, very uncharacteristic, gets roughed up a little bit. Just a sloppy day, right? Lost 11-2 to Belmont, which there were a couple of crazy results in the Palmetto State this past weekend with, again, not SEC ready, but Kennesaw State beating Clemson 18-1 in that Friday game, which was probably the wildest college baseball score that we've seen at this point. But Gamecocks take 2 of 3. I was actually on hand yesterday at Founders Park. The offense looks fantastic. Roman Kimball is a psycho on the mound. Eli Jones on Friday, I want to highlight as well. I think he looks really good and really comfortable in that Friday spot. Your thoughts on South Carolina, Harrison? This team to me looks really, really similarly built to what we saw last year.
Yeah, absolutely. And the team last year, which they're doing this year again, is just dominating the non-conference and scoring a lot of runs, hitting a lot of homers. And, it's just going to be seeing how that translates to SEC play. And honestly, I don't know how you feel this, but maybe Roman Kimball in the Friday night role, I would not be opposed to that at all. Yeah. I mean, he just looks so good. He's got great stuff.
My question with Kimball is just this, though. The energy's great, the emotion. But I'm sure you've seen, again, I mean this as a compliment, but he's a madman on the mound. And I'm like, if he's like this against Belmont, I mean, they got Clemson next weekend. What's he going to be like in conference play? You got to respect it, right? The guy loves the game, loves to pitch, loves to win.
Injury.
Yeah, coming off injury, loves to win. Also a guy I will say that Sunday game I was at that jumped out to me. I mean, we know the names Cole Messina, Ethan Petrie, which I think Petrie is kind of off to a little bit of a slow start. Hit a couple homers, but
especially compared to last year.
Right, compared to last year, yeah. Kennedy Jones, I think, had a home run in that game. The UNCG transfer, really like him. So again, and also Matthew Becker looking really good in that Sunday game. I would not be surprised to see him back in that weekend rotation very, very soon. So all is well in Columbia for the Gamecocks. Same can be said for Tennessee. All is well on Rocky Top. They swept Albany over the weekend, 8-5, 21-6, and 12-0. We talked about in the preseason, Harrison, they're going to hit, and that's what they're doing. Some bad news maybe for Tennessee with A.J. Russell leaving the game on Friday with some side soreness. You don't want to see that, obviously. Maybe it's extra precautionary that being this early in the season. Ball's also showing great patience at the plate. It's not just power. They drew 11 walks in that final game. Again, it's Albany, but Tennessee doing what they're supposed to do, and it's all led by an electric offense.
Yeah, absolutely, Chris. Like you said, I mean, obviously it's Albany. It's not an SEC caliber team, but you go in there, you take care of business. 21-6 win on Saturday and a 12-0 Mercy Rule and 7 on Sunday. You said 11 walks on Sunday. They're going to hit. We talk about it all preseason. They're going to hit, but the patience that they have to plate to go with how much power and the ability to hit they have, I think is super impressive. And I think is going to be a huge kind of proponent for them to succeed in the SEC as well as the rest of the season. They had 12 walks they drew on Saturday as well to go with 15 hits, 4 homers. I mean, the offense is just unbelievable.
Harrison, I don't think this is a bold take, but I'm going to say it anyways. I would venture to say that any game that Tennessee, that lineup, draws double-digit walks, they're going to win. I don't see them. I mean, it's just their offense is too good. They're going to punish you to such a degree if they're drawing that many walks. So
and the talent that they have in the lineup, with Billy Amick, the transfer, they have. I mean, transfer
he's
fantastic.
He's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, just to go with the talent they already had. I mean, I know they're replacing some pieces, like Maui Ohuna got drafted, but I mean, they have just bats after bats. There's no holes in the lineup. And it's going to be more so relying upon A.J. Russell and the starting pitching staff, A.J. Causey in the bullpen. You got Drew Beam. I mean, I think he pitched Saturday instead of Sunday this week. So that was kind of interesting to see, where he lands once SEC play comes, because we all thought he was going to be the Friday night guy.
Well, I think you're in a good spot. Whatever, however you sort them out in the rotation, Beam and Russell, that's a really good place to start for Tennessee. And like you mentioned, they've got sticks galore there. Speaking of another team that can swing the bats, Texas A&M, which again, I think they're certainly making their case for best lineup in the SEC 1 through 9. How about Jim Schlossnagle? Shout out to Schloss picking up career win number 900. Really impressive. One of the best in the game. Swept Wagner over the weekend and did it in emphatic fashion. 17-2 in game 1, 2-0. How about in game 2, and 21-2 in game 3. Did you know this, Harrison, that Texas A&M is the only team in the SEC to this point that is not allowed a home run? So, kind of an interesting stat there. I know it's the competition's been what it's been, but still pretty cool, pretty interesting. So again, all is well. Braden Montgomery, the big pickup in the transfer portal, he's been fantastic. The pitching again been really good with Prager, Lampkin, the rest of those guys as well. Ryan Targach, the heart and soul of that Aggies club, he's been great. What are you seeing from A&M? And again, Harrison, I think right now the Aggies have as good an argument as anybody that they've got the best lineup in the SEC and one of the best in college baseball.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned some of the big names like Braden Montgomery, transfer from Stanford, a two-way guy actually, but he's just lighting it up in the box, with the bat. You got Gavin Grahovic, the outfielder for them, that he's just another electric bat. He had 4 RBIs in the first game against Wagner, and he just had a great weekend. It's just another bat they have. And like Tennessee, they don't really have holes in the lineup. And we talk about this. They had 13 hits on Fridays, 11 walks this year. Another patient team that can mash when they want to, which is a lot and all the time. But I think on the pitching side, they have done everything they needed to do. The pitching staff has done their job in 3 games versus McNeese. I know they're not playing a lot of great talent so far, non-conference really. They played UIW in 3 games versus Wagner. They've had 3 shutouts, the most since 1983, 6 runs allowed. It's the fewest since 2011, and a 72-11 strikeout to walk ratio for the Aggie pitching staff. I mean, that's just dominant.
Let's go to the Vanderbilt Commodores, Harrison, our final SEC team breakdown, looking back on the week that was, if you will. I hate to start throwing that F word around. The F word I'm speaking of is fraudulent, but I was skeptical on Vandy, man. I was skeptical on Vandy coming in, and I know they won the series, 1, 2, or 3, but like the way Vandy's doing things right now, I'm not a fan of. I'm just not a fan of. I got serious questions with Vandy. Fraudulent is the word I put on Vanderbilt. Win 12-2 in game 1, right? It happened all throughout, scored in 5 different innings. Jack Bolger, Jaden Davis leading the way. Carter Holton was really good. Carter Holton, one of the best aces in the SEC. Win 4-3 on Saturday via walk-off, and then lose 9-8 on Sunday. Harrison, is in an overreaction. Am I going too far to be calling Vandy a fraud at this point? I was skeptical on them in the preseason. They've done nothing to change my mind. Your thoughts on Vandy baseball right now?
I think it's an overreaction, and I think someone's going to clip this off and at Old Takes Exposed, and you're going to hear about it later once the squad turns around. The Vandy boys, yes, it's not the start you want, right? Obviously, it's non-conference. You want to take care of business. Gonzaga is not a terrible team, but it's not a team that they should be messing around with, potentially losing a series to. They have a lot of good guys in the team, a lot of talent. We talk about it all the time. He's one of the best recruiters in the nation. They're a perennial powerhouse in Vanderbilt. They could have won 2 more titles in the past 5 years, to be honest with you. Carter Holton had his first start in the bounce-back game after pitching against FAU, where he had 5 earned runs in 3 innings. And, they have the talent to do so. They had a freshman pitch in Ethan McElvin, who I'm a huge guy on. He's a freshman. He went 3 innings, 1 hit, no runs, 6 Ks, 2 walks on the Saturday game, the 4-3 win. He was awesome to see. And just they have talent. It's just they're getting off to such a slow start, and I think they'll kind of ramp things up, especially they need to before SEC play.
And by the way, to support my point, we forgot to mention that Vandy lost to Dayton in the midweek, 8-5. So I'm just saying, man. I'm just saying.
Maybe they're going for the cold hot theory for the
slow.
season.
Hey, yeah. Hot, cold, hot, right? That's the 11.7, guys. Hot, cold, hot.
I'm a big proponent of the hot, cold, hot. It's
right.
It's
I mean,
legit. It's a real thing.
Yeah. I mean, it trust me, it's just whatever you need to be hot at the end. I mean, that's the winning formula. So,
Yeah.
Harrison, we just went through all 14 SEC teams. Real quick, too, the D1 baseball top 25, it dropped this morning. Arkansas at 2, LSU 3, Florida 4, Texas A&M 7, Tennessee 8, Vandy 9, Alabama 16, South Carolina 19. We mentioned the Auburn Tigers. They crack into the top 25 at 23. Your thoughts on the top 25? Obviously, early on, there's not going to be a lot of shakeup, right? Because non-conference series for the most part. But your thoughts on the latest D1 baseball top 25?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty accurate. Like you said, there's not going to be a lot of shakeup early with a lot of non-conference for most of the country outside of these kind of round-robin style tournaments that we've been seeing with a couple of the SEC teams. It's just going to be more so what changes in the first couple of weeks of the SEC and conference play for a lot of teams. I mean, if you look at it, like you mentioned, 3 of the top 5 are the SEC, Arkansas, LSU, Florida, and then you got 3 more in 6 through 10. You got A&M, you got the Volunteers, you got the Vandy Boys. It's still SEC dominant, but it's going to be a gauntlet at SEC to go through. So that's going to be fun to watch and see who comes out on top. See who, like you said, who's hot at the end.
Harrison, before we get out of here, and again, the Windup, guys, coming to you twice a week, Mondays, Thursdays. We're going to break down the weekend and the week that was. We're going to look ahead to every weekend, preview, give our picks. There might be some picks coming. There are definitely some picks coming. A quick teaser, because, Harrison, we're going to break it all down on Thursday. But, folks, when I tell you we have got an insane SEC and college baseball slate, Harrison, this is just the SEC, okay? We've got the Astros Foundation Classic with LSU and Vanderbilt, and Texas, by the way, being featured in that. Might as well just throw them in there. We got the College Baseball Series. Texas A&M will be participating in that. Other teams like Southern Cal's in that, I believe. Arizona State, if I recall correctly, I think they're in that as well. The Frisco Classic with Alabama. Then we've got rivalry series. Georgia Tech. We got Florida Miami. We got South Carolina Clemson. And oh, by the way, if that wasn't enough, we got Ole Miss and Iowa. Again, I talked about that F word, that fraudulent word. Which of those two will prove to be less fraudulent than the other?
Yeah.
Going to be a great weekend. Going to be a great week of college baseball. Harrison, I appreciate you, man. This was a lot of fun. Again, guys, in case you missed it, the Windup coming to you twice a week, Mondays, Thursdays, all throughout the college baseball season. Going to be a blast. Harrison, any closing remarks, any final things, anything standing out to you through 2 weeks of college baseball you want to get off your chest?
Standing out, definitely Arkansas Razorbacks pitching staff. I can't harp on it enough. Like you talked about, the most dominant pitching staff in the SEC, maybe in the country. Just one of the best teams. There's so much fun to watch. And the games they played this weekend were electric. I know you didn't pay for Flow Sports to watch it. I had a different method to watch the game. Shout out to a friend for that. It was a lot of fun. And just, I think it's going to be like we talked about, once SEC play comes, who really sticks their head above and who doesn't, who rises to the top, who doesn't, and it'll all work itself out.
That's a great way to close it, Harrison. Flow Sports. I don't care how good the baseball is, not paying $30. Sorry. Sucks to suck. I don't know.
We missed 2 of the best games too of the season so far.
The highlights were awesome. And I saved $30. So is what it is.
So did I.
Indeed. Harrison, I appreciate you taking the time. Everybody else who tuned in, thank you all so much. Again, catch us Mondays, Thursdays, where we break down everything SEC baseball each and every single week. Till next time, guys, he's Harrison Fant. I'm Chris Phillips. We'll talk to you again soon.